Hey guys, Steven Martinez with The American Dream. I just want to say a big thanks to all our supporters and fans. It's because of you guys that we're able to keep growing. Having said that, please don't forget to follow and subscribe. It means a lot to us. That's what helps us keep growing. And also, I hope you guys enjoy the next episode. Hey guys, welcome back to The American Dream podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Dr. Nestor Rodriguez, the CEO and founder of Carbon World Health. Thanks for coming, brother.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Amazing setup. I like it.
Thank you. I know we've talked a lot. We met at Dom's. When was Dom's event again? Like a little over a year ago?
Yeah,
around
something like that.
And your story was funny because before we talk about kind of like, you know, your childhood to what brought you to nowadays, but you're mentioning the whole Yale stuff and then your mom and stuff. And then what I liked a lot about you was the fact that the similar common interest in terms of, you know, being Hispanic, going through all these, you know, obstacles at the beginning. So talk to me about your childhood and, you know, how that kind of helped you become who you are nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. It's an important topic to talk about, obviously. So I was born actually in El Salvador, and my grandparents, I thought were my parents for the first 7 years because my mom immigrated right then. And then I grew up in the 80s, or I was born in 1980, so that Civil War was going on. And right about that time when I went to LA, it's when you had to decide, are you going to be part of the guerrillas or are you going to be part of the government and military? And I don't know if you know, but they started recruiting kids to go in the military. So my family's like, you got to get them out. Mm-hmm. So I moved to LA, but I didn't know who my mom was, right?
And you were born?
I was born in El Salvador, yeah. My mom was in LA, but she left me when I was a baby with my grandparents. Uh-huh. So I didn't know. I'm like, why are these people trying to get me to this random lady? And so it took like 7 trips. And the running joke is like every time I wanted to go to Disneyland, and finally, apparently I met a girl at Disneyland, and that convinced me. Everyone says to stay, and I'm like, no, 7. What are you guys talking about? But then I moved, you know, from El Salvador to South Central LA, where during that time there was a lot of race riots, right? So it was Latino against African American at that time, and then everyone's like, hey, you know, the police department during the Rodney Kings and all that era was like against both minorities. So it was interesting. I always tell people I left one civil war for another civil war, going through ESL, right, English as a second language. Yeah. So it was interesting to see where it was like race, gangs, everything was around me. Mm-hmm. But I saw my mom. She was a full-time housekeeper and nanny, and I saw her struggle. So I'm like, hey, I got to keep going out. And I don't know if you remember, you're probably too young for this, but Dewey Hauser, the show, I always wanted to be a doctor. So everyone around me, all my cousins or people that are in gangs would call me Doogie. So I remember when they would go do bad stuff, they're like, no, you're going to make it, go to school. And they would like push me aside, even though at that time I'm like, why are you guys not? I want to get involved. I want to do this. They're like, no. So they kind of took care of me, right?
Wow.
But for me, it was just interesting to see, like, no matter where you're at, right, and what space is, it's going to shape your life. And for me, it was like, man, why are people arguing? Why are people fighting for race? Like now, being the first one in my family to go to high school, I literally went to a high school that was by where I grew up, but that had security all around it because it was all the rich kids from all the rich neighborhoods that would come into it, and it was an all-boys school, Loyola. And I was like dreamt to go in there because you would see fancy cars. It was like, who goes there? Why are they all there? And then one of my teachers, because mentoring is a big thing in my life, was he would stay. He knew all the parents couldn't afford anything, so he would stay with us after school. He would take us to games. He made like math competition look cool, so everyone was pumped to be smart and play sports. So he's the one that helped us get into these high schools. And once he opened doors, and once I saw like what the other world lives like, I was pumped and I was hooked. So and then kind of skyrocketed through that.
So moving through high school, what was the transition? Because you went to Yale. That's a big
thing. No, so it was. So when I got to Loyola, it was all boys school, Jesuit school. So one is going to an all boys school. 2, kind of keeping faith in it. And then 3, just seeing like, man, the dedication, the strive, and like what it takes to be successful, because you don't see it around, right? It's just hard work, paycheck by paycheck. But then you enter that world, and I've been lucky because every space I've been, you know, God's put mentors or people in my life that show you like no matter where you're at, now you're here. Yeah. So don't think of yourself as an imposter. You're here. You earned it, and so now take advantage of it, right? And so then my dream school was to go to Yale, and I was like, there's no way. But, you know, I graduated 3rd in my class. Nice. You know, I did well in sports, in academics, and I applied and got in, and I was like, all right, lights out. And it was funny because I never traveled. So I remember going to the airport, and the big Macintosh, I put all my luggage in a box. They're like, this is cargo, this isn't luggage. I'm like, what? So then I had to go buy a bag to put my stuff in and ship it. And I remember getting to Yale, and that was a whole different ballgame. Like that was
Where is Yale again?
It's in Connecticut, in New Haven. Yeah, it's a whole different level of like wealth, power. Like it was nuts. I pull up, you know, in my cab, and all the families had like movers moving all their kids in and setting them up. And I walked in, and we were in a suite with 8 people, and it was Anthony, Scott, Hunter Quackenbush III. That was one of the guys. The other one was Rich Ting, Jordan Hinkes, James Fagan, and then Tetsushi Okamoto. That was my roommates. I just knew the names. And then I started finding out. So one is their dad was the CEO of Continental Airlines. The other one was the big Ting doctor that does all the professional athletes. Quackenbush was the person that did the Nutcracker.
Wow.
And then 2 others were like top CEOs for JP Morgan. Like it was crazy to see. And then it's me. Like they're like, all the parents are like, where's your mom? Where is it? Because she couldn't travel with me. So she put me in a plane, and I don't think she traveled honestly till I graduated, till I was saved up money to fly her out to go see me.
How did that feel? Because I kind of relate to that too. How did it feel, I guess, when you left your family again, going to a whole different world? I mean, you're going from pretty much West Coast to East Coast.
Yeah.
How was that for yourself mentally? Were you kind of in a moment where you felt like alone, depressed, anything like that throughout that?
Yeah, you know, you do. There's times where you're like, man, but I think my mom instilled with me of like, hey, you gotta, if the door opens, you gotta walk through it. And you can't like think back or let yourself down. Yeah. So I've always been that where like, I have to get in, right? So even there, it was interesting because a lot of people, or a lot of Latinos just want to hang out with Latinos. And I'm like, this is crazy weird, yo. Like, I already know you. Like, we're going to be buddies already because we're Latinos or we're from the same neighborhood. But I would push people to be like, no, I need to know the person from Nantucket. I need to know the person that I'm not. So I'm always of that mentality of like, I want to be around the people that aren't like me. For sure. So 1, so I can learn from them, or 2, then give them a different perception if they have a negative perception of me and my people. And so even though it was sad to leave, it's always with that positive outlook, right? So I didn't feel it as much, but if you talk to a lot of my other friends that are minorities, I would say they felt it. And at times they're like, man, I feel a lot of place. I always tell people it is that, but you just got to look at yourself inside. It's like, are you contributing to that feeling? Or is it truly that feeling, right? And for me, it's always like, don't get bogged down in that. Like keep breaking stereotypes, keep pushing forward. And that's what I did, which is awesome. So
it's refreshing to hear that too, because I think a lot of people in the Latino community lack that concept of understanding, you know, hey, it's just not just about us being with us. It's like, hey, let me connect with everyone, because that's the power of networking itself and building those connections and relationships. I mean, you've seen it firsthand with our event. So as we're moving along with Yale, mention the story with, you know, you coming back.
Oh yeah,
that's I like that. Yeah.
So, and I always say that when I speak. And so it was, I think, first spring break my freshman year. I went back home. Yeah. And literally everyone around is like, dude, you're back. Like, what's going on? Like, and everyone's giving me all this level of respect. And I was like, what are you talking about? Finally, one of the guys says, dude, I thought you were locked up for 4 years. I'm like, locked up? What are you talking about? Yeah. They're like, yeah, how'd they let you out early? Did you do good conduct or what'd you do? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's spring break. Yeah. But then I realized, my mom couldn't pronounce jail, so she was calling it jail instead of Yale. So I'm like, I got to get her sweatshirts. So now it's a running joke because everyone, as soon as I told them that, then I went back to like, man, you have no street cred. You're a nerd. Go this. But for that 24 hours, I was like a baller. I was like, this is pretty sweet. And now I know why people want to join this life. So to this day, she always jokes around about that. Now she can pronounce it, but it was pretty funny when I got back. I'm like, why is everyone, what do you mean good behavior? So
what was so you went to Yale, and then from there, in the process of getting your PhD, how was that?
Yeah, so I went, so when I went to Yale, my sister, I wanted to always be a doctor, but then my sister was 10 years apart, was premature. And she was in an incubator, and like I remember taking care of her and just being like, man, this is a cool way to help people. I love science. Yeah. And so I wanted to go to med school. So I started looking all over the place, and you know, to the point that we talk about, like you get into these spaces as you go higher in education or in profession, it's less of you, right? And so for me, there was like 15 to 20 people that we were all coming out of different schools, but we were like the top students, I guess, from all the universities. So they would always fly us out to medical schools for these minority recruitment trips. And after 3 of them, we all got to know each other. And we ended up being in all the schools. My dream school was to go back to LA. At that point, I was a straight LA kid. I'm like, New York maybe exists, maybe Florida, but I'm like, my goal is to get back to LA. And so I applied, right? I got into Yale, Harvard Medical School, UCLA, and then Wisconsin. Wisconsin, because I was part of the soccer team at Yale. And one of my roommates was from Wisconsin, so we had taken a trip to play, both Milwaukee and Madison.
Awesome.
Partied too much and lost both games, actually. And the coach never let us down for that. But he's like, you should apply to Wisconsin. So I did. Yeah. And what was crazy is when we did all these groups, we were actually on State Street, which is a pretty, most bars per capita, I think, in the U.S. It's a big party school there. So we were there at a restaurant, and everyone's like, hey, where are we going to go? We all know each other. We're all being recruited by the same schools. And they had offered us a full ride to Wisconsin. And I'm like, hey, I don't know about you guys, but I come from nothing. Even though, UCLA is there, Harvard, I got to go where I'm not going to come out in debt.
Yeah, of course.
And the other thing too was I don't remember saying this, but everyone else tells me that I told the group, I'm like, hey, if we come here or we tell no this school, are we closing the door on other people? And we all agreed. We're like, all right, let's just come to Wisconsin. Because why Wisconsin, right? If you're Latino and you come from LA, Houston, New York, you're gonna go back to those areas because you're familiar to them.
Yeah.
And that's when people say, well, you're not from Wisconsin. I'm like, no, I am from Wisconsin now. I took a leap of faith, and it worked out well. Because once I got it, I made them, walk the walk. I'm like, all right, now you got us here. Now you have to help us, right? And for me, honestly, I've been blessed with the mentors, the people, the positions I put myself in. That's why early on in my career I am where I'm at. And when I was looking at what I wanted to do, I wanted to do plastics, I wanted to do sports. Everything I did, I'm like, I love this. So then it's like, how do I put it all together? Well, emergency medicine made sense. One, because I could treat anyone regardless of race, income, language. And then two, I'm helping them in the worst moments of their life, and I like to make report pretty quick, so it was awesome. And so they were starting a residency program at the University of Wisconsin. So I was the first class, then became the chief resident, and then they brought me on. I was one of the youngest program directors in the country, so I ran the program from 6 residents up to 12, and now it's one of the elite programs in the country. And I would say I had some part in building that stuff, and it was awesome. It opened up doors to what we do now because of those positions.
And you were there for 4 years, correct? At medical school?
Yeah, so medical school for 4 years, residency for 3 years, and then you're fully the doctor.
So it's 4, 8 + 3, so you're looking at 11 years.
11 years, yeah, it's a long career.
What's one thing I truly admire, whether I have lawyer friends, I have doctor friends, the amount of discipline that goes behind that, because I did my MBA and I already tapped out. I'm like, I'm good, man,
Yeah.
But it's just because people see it as man, I don't want to, I guess you see it as the long term, 8 years or 6 years, this or that. But you have to be so disciplined and consistent, knowing that you want to achieve that every day. What kept you disciplined? What kept you consistent? And what made it easy for you?
Yeah, for me, honestly, one major was my mom, right? I saw how hard she worked, and I saw the life that hard work gives, because she was a housekeeper for a lot of extremely wealthy people and famous people. However she worked that out, and so to me, I always kept that chip on my shoulder where it's hey, I got to do it for her. And then two, really being an immigrant, right? Being able to fast forward to now, right? It was really I want to be a trailblazer. I want to open doors, and I want to go to spaces, and when they leave, they look at people from El Salvador different. And so I always kept that in my mind. I'm like, hey, no matter what I'm doing, I got to leave that a better place. But more so for people to follow, where they're going to be yeah, I'll hire someone from El Salvador, or yeah, Latinos aren't all bad, right? Or whatever it might be. And so that kept me focused. And I would tell you though, because I had that focus, my life had to change at some point, because I was so driven and I had accomplished so much early on, that you get to this point where it's I remember sitting with my mentor, and they're like, well, what else do you want? Right? Because it was costing relationship. Because I was so hardcore, career, doing this, that I was ignoring relationships. I was ignoring my health, all these different things. But if you look at my CV, you look at my pedigree, it was like, man, this guy's made it, right? So I remember him saying, okay, what do you want in life? I mean, what are you talking about? He's like, I see something that's different, and I'll be honest, I think you're gonna burn out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't burn out. Like, go, right? He said, yeah, but now you have to change it. Because now you're part of the elite. You're part of a top performers. That drive's only gonna take you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So he made me do this exercise, which was crazy. He's like, write down everything you want out of life. To the T. He's like, how big of a house? I'm like, I don't know. He's like, give me a square footage. And I put it. He's like, how much income do you want to make a year? I don't know. No, you got to put it. And realize what halfway through the exercise, what he was really telling me is like, I had accomplished everything I dreamt of. So at this point, it's like, okay, now change. Like, what do you want to do? I was 31 at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's like, what I see is you like to mentor, you like to give back, you see this vision. And it was during that transition, I should have said, when we were looking at banking our business. Because they're like, are you making this business because you want money? Why are you doing this business, right? And his whole thing was realize what you've made, right? Because we always forget like how much we've accomplished. Celebrate that. And now are you going to these new ventures for the right reason? And it was phenomenal because it reinvigorated me to make the business that we have created. But at the same time, kind of tamed me to say like, hey, I do want things out of life, right? I do want my wife. I don't want my wife to just be at home and I don't interact with her, or my family to be like, yeah, I can take them on trips, but like I don't know them, right? Things like that. So it was a kind of turning point in my career, I would say, at that point.
That sounds almost kind of crazy in the sense that you pretty much went through 11 years, right? Of discipline, consistency, hard work. And then you took another gamble on yourself to start your own stuff when you could have just gotten a job from somewhere else that would have hired you. You would have had a decent salary. You would have been fine. So talk to me about that. Like, how was that transition from obviously there to entrepreneurship? That's two different worlds, right?
Completely different worlds, right? And even now, my mentors always laugh and they're like, "You're crazy," because I literally had made, and I was in the high echelon of education, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to train residents. I wanted to keep going, and my career was set to take over the program, to become chair. All my mentors wanted that, and when I'm like, hey, I'm leaving to do this, they're like, you're crazy. What are you talking about, right? But for me, it's like once I've committed to it, I know I'm going to do it well, and then I'm going to surround the people that are going to help me. So it was less of a gamble, especially because I started with my wife, and you met her. I mean, she's a go-getter. She'll make it happen too.
For sure.
And so one, I had a partner to go to, but I saw the need, right? Like I mentioned yesterday in a talk, in emergency medicine, you see the worst of the worst, right? And you also then see the sad part about medicine, or how people take care of themselves, whether it's because they don't have access, they don't have insurance, or ultimately they don't think about health, right? And so they come to me and they're sick. When I was in residency and in the academics, during that time, they started requiring ER docs to be on the field for the NFL, for the UFC. And then I saw what these professional athletes got, right? And then these executive programs were coming around where it's like, if you have access, if you have wealth, unfortunately, the reality is there's still VIPs in healthcare, and they were treating them differently. It's the same doctors. It's like me seeing you one day and they're like, well, let me size you up. Are you worth me telling you to invest and do that? Or like, no, you know what, you're good enough. Just continue doing what you're doing, right? So that bothered me. And I'm like, there's gotta be something, right? And so 15 years ago, that's when we created Carbon World Health. And it came from that thought that I'm like, wait, why is it that only these people get access to all this, right? How can I create a space? We created a one-stop shop for health, fitness, and beauty. So our facility, we have a fitness side, right? And I said, okay, what are the excuses I would give my trainer? I had an overnight shift. We both want to work out at the same time, so you take it. I don't have time. So we're like, all right, we're going to take that away. Our trainers are there. There's no appointments. You walk in, our trainers are there ready to train you. 2, then it was, well, what other aspect of fitness? Health isn't with it, right? So our memberships include recovery, include hormones if you need it, include IVs, cryo, red light. And then we tell you, if you're making healthier, I might as well make prettier, so it includes Botox. So like it's a unique, like if you buy into this lifestyle, that's the gym. Then we have the spa side, knowing that people might not want cure, But then we have the spa side where people could come in and out and do different services. But when we started, people are like, it's crazy. And we're in Madison, we're like, beauty, all these different things that were like now that are commonplace weren't at the time. So like, it's not going to work. And we're like, it is. And it's just a mentality. And like I mentioned yesterday, that's the biggest thing, changing your mentality about health. Because if you look at top performers, like I mentioned yesterday, it's like they're not chasing just wealth. Right? They're chasing what's going to keep their influence, power, and wealth sustainable for the longest time, and that's your health.
100%.
Otherwise, you just have a fancy nursing home at the end of the day. Right?
Yeah, it's true.
That sucks. Why you work so hard not to enjoy it?
So when you were building Carbon World Health, I assume it's easier said than done. Was there, as an entrepreneur, were there moments of ups and downs as a business owner? Take me through that.
Yeah. So I would say we have the normal ups and downs of business that I could talk about, but also then the healthcare part of it, right? Because you got to remember, as doctors, we're probably the worst on money. That's what they'll tell us, right? And two, especially in the emergency, I come from I want to help people, right? Like in the emergency department, if you can't afford it, I got you. To entrepreneur, you still have to make money, right? You have to pay bills. You have to be. So as doctors, now that I train doctors or people that want to be entrepreneurs that are doctors, I tell them you got to get off of that because you're still providing a service, right? You're still, and I would see it in our clients where they're like, yep, you're emotional about it. Like, why'd you give me a discount right now? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, I don't need a discount, right? So you start learning these things, taking away your mindset of a doctor and being like, no, I'm worth X. The product's worth X. I shouldn't discount it because no one else does it in business, right?
True.
So that was one transition. The other then in business is the how do you work on the business, not just in the business, right? And then who do you turn to, right? Because when you're beginning and you're trying to I think someone yesterday talked about faking it till you make it. I also agree with him that I didn't do that. I was just like, hey, I know I have a good product. I'm not faking this, but how do I get to where I want to get to?
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, who do I turn to? Because imagine you're my client.
Yeah.
But then I'm asking you, hey man, how do I make this work? Like that's, you're not going to be like, yeah, I want to go to this place, right? Because our brand is like high end, right? Like the people that we see are high end, top performers.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. But like what we realized that once they believe in you, all our clients became like mentors.
Really?
So they're all like, man, I believe in this. This is awesome. What do you need? So then I started picking people that I saw like how they were, what I aspire to be as a business owner, and they open-handedly were like, yeah, I got you. Like, I'll help you. So that made that situation a little bit better. And then obviously having my wife, right? Like the long nights that it's like, you're ready to quit. It was interesting because we would have them at different times, or we would talk to each other and get us out of that. And so it's been quite a ride, but we've survived the 10-year mark. We're 15 years going.
It's awesome.
We have 3 locations. This year we're looking to expand and doing virtually, across the nation. So it's been awesome.
I like how you mentioned that too. One of the key things that I think people forget to do is always ask for help at times, right? From key people. Sometimes I think we let our ego get in our way. But it comes a long way just asking for advice or for the opinion. Now you mentioned, I have 2 questions for you. So one is the mentorship side, because you mentioned how mentorship's important. So I have that one for you, but then also for anyone that isn't in Wisconsin, it is nationwide, correct?
It is. Yeah. We do, so virtual appointments. So we do, basically we can send people to get labs. We can create everything even at your home. And so that's why a lot of people, that's why we have done more brick and mortar, because now people are comfortable with that right after COVID. But yeah, we work with people across the nation. Basically it's doing a consult, and we always tell people know where you're at, right? Like rank your score. Remember, it was pretty funny because I made everyone rank their score from 1 being like, hey, I never think of my health, to 10, it's like my health is fully optimized. And that's the key word. It's not that I'm healthy, it's optimized, right? Because I always get a kick out of it in the emergency department. We're like, hey, do you have medical problems? No. Are you on medications? Oh, doc, I have tons of them. What, do you have medical problems, right? It's just the lack of understanding of it, right? And the same way, as an entrepreneur, like for you as you're growing, right? We see ourselves, we use a lot of analogies with our clients because it makes sense to kind of eliminate the difficulties of medicine at times.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, all right, we all agree on Lambo is a Lambo, right? They're like, yeah, if you got a Lambo and you actually earned it and you bought it, like you've made something of yourself, right? And so oftentimes we see ourselves as a Lamborghini, but inside, like our gas tank, our tires are flat, our seats are torn, right? Because of that grind. So we're there to make sure we fuel the tank, we fuel, we put air in your tires, we fix your Lambo so the inside looks just as good as the outside. And honestly, I mean, you unlock your peak performance, which is the key for that stuff for it.
And then in terms of mentorships, how important were they with everything?
Yeah. Mentoring, I think it's the biggest important. And you know what I tell people about mentoring, it's a two-way street, right? So like, one, you got to be willing to ask, and you got to be willing to like seek out. But the common mistake I see people do is even when like networking at events, right? Let's say yesterday we all met, everyone's like, this is great, but then there's no follow-up. Or the follow-up is like, hey man, I met you at the program. Okay. Every time I mentor, I'm like, if you send me an email like that, I'm going to be like, all right, cool. Like, that's not a question, right? Like, okay, sweet. I don't need a new friend, right? Like, but if you're like, hey, I would love to talk to you and sit down and ask you about X, Y, and Z, that's a different question, right? Because, for a while, and Yale taught us this, where it's like, people don't have to mentor you, right? Like, just because they made it doesn't mean like, for every one of me that wants to give back, 100%. There's 10 other people that are like, dude, you figure it out, right? Yeah. And so one is asking, but asking for what, right? So I have mentors in my religious space, right, that know the Bible better, that have a better, stronger relationship with God, that I want to aspire to be. I have it financially. I have it relationship-wise, professional, business, right? And you have to have all that space because not everyone's going to be able to tell you everything about what your life is. So you have to put yourselves in those situations and really ask those specific questions. And to me, that was the biggest thing of like, hey, I have a high brand business and I don't know anything about business. Can you help me? And that was a huge, where I'm like, who the hell am I going to ask that question to? Yeah. But believe it or not, if you ask any entrepreneur, they'll laugh like that because they'll be like, dude, we were all there.
Yeah.
That's how we all started. So then you shouldn't be scared to ask it. So then I was like, let's go to town. Let's ask those questions, right? Yeah. And similar to the question I asked yesterday was, I was like asking all these entrepreneurs, they're like, how do you take the emotion out of it? And it's crazy to see how successful people, they're like, just go based on the data. Like, if you go based on emotions, your business isn't going to succeed. Because if you go based on like, man, I'm broke. Like, I don't have the bank. I don't have the money in a bank account now. You're never going to push forward, right? Yeah. And I would have these business owners, they're like, oh, I have debt like crazy. I'm like, what do you mean you have debt like crazy? Yeah. He's like, yeah. Why use your own money? Use other people's money to make your businesses, right? Things like that you don't think about, where you're like, yeah, damn. I was thinking about it by myself. Or if someone doesn't like your product or doesn't like what you said, so what? There's 90 other people that will. Yeah. So you just kind of keep that emotions out, and that's where the mentors, I think, they keep drilling you. But a good mentor will keep you in line, right? Will make sure you don't become something that you're not, while at the same time challenge you to aspire to be more.
So I want to talk a little bit about the health side. So it's really interesting because, nowadays, for example, you hear the craziest stuff online about health. So it's like, I saw this one guy and it was like saying how you shouldn't drink water. It's just controversial stuff like that, or like, like hydrogen water or this or this or this or that. And nowadays I think people don't even know what to listen to because it's so, they all just contradict each other. In your opinion, what are like the 5 things you would say someone can do to really optimize their health?
Yeah. So one is the mindset first, right? So there is a lot of noise out there, right? And I do, it irks me, and everyone knows that's why they give me crap, because I'll be at a dinner table with a family. Yeah. And they'll have a medical problem, and they all talk to each other. And I'm like, hello. Hey guys, I'm the doctor here. Or they'll call someone else, right? Or social media said this. Yeah. Right? And so it irks me, and I'm like, and then they finally like, oh, my bad. Can you tell me about this? I'm like, you guys are all crazy. No, that's not the answer. This is the answer. But I think you have to realize in social media and influencers, right? Like a lot of times it's, people are going to say what they're going to say, but you have to elevate and be smart and take a step back and say, what does that make sense? Why are they coming? What are their credentials? Or like, why is it? There's a reason I went to 11 years of school. Of course. Right? Versus I read a book and now I could tell you what to do.
Yeah, I saw a short YouTube video.
So you just can't do that. And then the other thing you got to realize about social media is like, they might be talking about a particular topic, but you'll never hear them say it's specific to you, right? People forget that, right? So it's no different than like back in the day, your trainer, your buddy at the gym is like, you should get on all of this. Why? Or how do you know you should get on all these things, right? And so mindset goes into like seeking the true answers. And then mindset's also like caring about your health, but mindset's also then talking to the right people about it, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's where us as healthcare workers always push our doctors back, because fundamentally healthcare right now is like in shambles, and we created that, right? And so when you go to social media, I can't get mad because you probably had an interaction with a doctor that told you no, or like, no, don't even listen to it. It's not an answer you want to hear, right? So for me, it's like, no, let's talk about it. I might not agree with you. I'm going to tell you the facts, but it's up to you to agree with me or not. But at least it's coming from a reputable source, right? So when you change that mindset to like, one, I care about my health. I know it's going to give me more high performing years. Now it's like, where do I turn to, right? And so that's the first thing. Then it's actually getting like optimized personal health. Me and you are different.
Yeah.
You're way younger than me, right? I was joking around. I'm 80 because of everything I'm on. I look younger, but we're different, right?
How old are you?
Females, males. I'm 44.
Oh, you look young. Yeah.
And so you have to say, long are the days now with everything we have where you should just be on something just because a buddy told you, or just because you saw it on YouTube or TikTok, right? You there's things you can do like labs, metrics, biometrics. You could get genetic tests. You can get all these cool testing so that I can optimize you specifically for you. That's going to be different than me. And so you have to know that, right? 3 then becomes, okay, how do I track this? Well, labs you could track, right? Scales you can track. I always tell people when they say, I want to get in shape, well, what does that mean, right? If I tell you right now shape, it might be a 6-pack for you. For me, it might be like I rep 225. Someone's running. Someone's like, I just want to be able to walk. And so we tell people, okay, let's go beyond the weight. Let's look at composition, right? 200 pounds, 15% body fat is different than 200 pounds, 30% body fat. Right?
Yeah.
So it's used the data. And that's where I even fight with docs. Let's say your doc disagrees with me. I'm like, all right, just work with me for 6 months. Then go back to them. I just made you healthier. I took you off medications. Your labs are better and you look better. What are they going to say? Well, you shouldn't be on it. Well, why? I'm healthier. I'm feeling better. Like, tell me why I shouldn't, right? And then it's like, I'm proving it to you that I'm making you healthier and better. Then the other thing is you just have to then, with that, is then continue it, right? It's not like because everyone says, I need a jump starter, right? Or I do it for a little bit, right? No, this is a lifestyle. Once you commit to it, it's like you don't need a jump start of your bank account, right? You're not going to go to an investor and be like, just give me a couple thousand and then cool, I'll take it out.
Yeah.
Like it's not, right? So when you look at it and you say, am I applying every principle I apply to outside of health to my life? Why am I not applying it to health? Right? And that's the big, like to do for our clients. They're like, damn, he got me on that, right? He's like, yeah, you're right. I don't. I'm like, you're so successful, but you're running on fumes. You're sick. Like you can't do stuff with your kids. Like that's crazy. Like why are you doing that? And so that's what we do. We do customized plans at Carbon, where it's like, and the seamlessly incorporation into your life. Because if I tell you right now, all right, I'm going to disrupt your life so much to get healthy, you're going to be like, no, kick rocks. I don't want to do that. So, right, it's coming with strategies that you could do now that you're like, man, this isn't as hard as I thought.
It won't affect the routine of an entrepreneur.
Correct. No, and then surely you'll start finding out that this leads to this, to that. You have more energy. You want to do more, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, man, why didn't I do this sooner? And that's the number one, like, if you look at testimonials from my clients, they're like, damn, I listened to your podcast. I listened to you on radio, on TV. Like, man, I should have just made that call.
Yeah. So what are 3 things, generically speaking? I'm with you too on, people react different on different stuff, but 3 things that you would say do not do. Like, what are big no's?
Yeah. So one is just doing it because an influencer says it, right?
Okay.
Like, and not putting any thought to it. And 2 is looking at health from like a financial, like not looking at it as an investment. So what I tell with that is like, people will spend $1,000 on a phone, on a watch, on a car, right? But like for health, they're like, man, I want the cheapest. But that's not that. Like that's crazy to me. I'm like, what are you talking about? If you look at it as an investment, then the cost shouldn't matter, right? You should still be able to afford it, right? Like don't go bankrupt with what you're doing, but don't let cost be a reason why you're going to do this versus that. Yeah. And that I see all the time, where it's like, I just bought it online from somewhere. I don't know where it is, but it was cheaper than going to somewhere else. I'm like, no, you don't think about it that, right? Yeah. Then 3rd is, I would say, don't do it blind or don't do it without knowing a purpose. Like, what are you going to get out of it, right? And doing it in a routine or something because if I show you how it's helping you, you're going to commit to it. If I randomly throw stuff at you, you're not going to know it, right? And that's the problem with medications where doctors were like, the fact that you don't know you have medical problems and you're on 80 medications, we failed you as doctors because we haven't told you why you're on those medications, why you need it, what it's causing to your body. So I would say those things, like, don't do.
So now in the terms of like lifestyle, like referring to like, hey, like don't vape, don't smoke, or like, hey, don't eat this, or hey, don't take that, don't have a processed food, or something like that. Like, what are 3 tips that you recommend someone to take and 3 things not to take? Like, for example, I've heard like things as like, in the morning, drink water with salt, or take this. What are 3 things that you would say, hey man, like you should do this? Just anyone should do this because it's going to make you healthier.
Yeah. So hydration is a big one, right? We have waters here, and it's what do I drink, right? People forget that our body should be 60 to 70% water, right? And when you look at water, a lot of times we think this is enough, and it's not, right? How much water you should be drinking, how much protein you should be drinking. The cheap way of doing it, for example, for protein, is divide your weight by 2, and that should be how much protein you should be intaking. But that's usually if you wake up and go to bed. Same with water, right? Or I tell people with water, like how do it make sense to people? Like, get on a scale before you work out, and get on the scale after you work out. Your body, the weight that just changed is just water, and you'll realize how much water. You're like, crap, I got to drink 4 of these just to gain what I just lost. Not to mention then I drink coffee. I didn't sleep on medications. So to your point though, specifically is hydrating. The excuse is I got to pee more. That's good because your body needs it and you're going to function better. 2 is eating protein, right? And so no matter what diets out there that you're doing, you just have to get increased protein because now in medicine, I don't know if you've seen it, there's this trend where before it was like lose fat, now it's gain muscle. Why? Because as we get older, as our hormones change, it's harder to maintain and build muscle, and that's what's proven to keep you healthier as you move forward. That's why older people, now they have even programs specific to old people to prevent them from losing their muscle so that they don't fall, break their hips and things like that. And it all comes from nutrition, and protein is the big one. You could talk about carbs, you could talk about this diet versus this diet. Honestly, the key is protein. Are you eating it? Are you eating enough? And are you eating good protein that's there? And then sleep would be the big ones. Like if you're talking just generic advice, but sleep is interesting because as entrepreneurs, what do we say? I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll sleep when I make it. It's like, not really. Why? And how I prove this time and time. 1, because I've experienced it and people proved it to me. But now what I tell our clients is like, a project that should take you 30 minutes is going to take you 3 hours if you haven't slept well. And it's not till you sleep well that you do it, right? Or if you incorporate IVs, right? We were talking about that earlier. We have IVs for, we do them not just for you're hungover or sick, but we do it for performance. So our gym folks get IVs before they work out at times to prove to them like, holy crap, this is how I should feel working out when I'm truly hydrated. Same with sleep, right? Sleep means now with digital, like every buzz, everything, right? It's like, no, sleep. Read something before to go to sleep. I used to watch my mom. My wife would give me crap. She's like, man, are you trying to kill me or something? I would watch all these like murder shows right before I go to bed. And then I'm like, man, I had the craziest dream. She's like, yeah, duh, because you're watching all this crazy stuff before you go to bed. So I would always wake up not feeling rested.
So you have to disconnect before going to sleep?
You have to, yeah. I would say 30 minutes to an hour disconnect.
And like don't even have the phone next to you, like just have it somewhere else?
Somewhere else. And the same thing too when you begin, because anything that's going to buzz, it's going to take your mind to like all of a sudden, even if you go back to bed, right? Because that buzz might be an email. Right? That buzz might be just an ESPN alert, right? Like all this crap that all of a sudden your brains, you might go back to sleep, but your brain's already turned on, right?
That's true.
The other thing that I see people do mistake with sleep is like, you'll read a book, right? We have your book here. They'll read a book, like you should read a book that's just calming you down, not a motivational book, right? Because then you're going to go to bed feeling pumped. You're not going to bed. You're over here thinking like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And I've done it, which is why I'm telling you, don't do it. You have to read a book that who cares? Right? You're just reading it to read, right? Or the Bible. Or worse yet, like my wife would say, because I started now implementing, is like talk to your significant other, right? Like big concept where I'm like, we talk about business, we talk about everything else. But now it's like, all right, spend 10, 15 minutes before you go to bed talking to each other, checking in with each other, and you'll see that you'll sleep a lot better.
That makes sense. I have a bad habit of like before I go to bed, I'll be on my phone just on TikTok.
Yeah.
Man, I'll be like 11 and I'm like, dang, it's 12 now. I'm like,
Yep.
okay, one more video. It's 1.
Correct.
I'm like, all right, I got
Because think about it. Every video you're watching is like implanting or waking some idea in your brain. Whether it's a good or bad, whatever you're watching. But it's not telling your brain, all right, I'm ready to disconnect. Even though you think you're disconnecting. Because in your mind, you're disconnecting from the day life, but it's not, right? Like everything in our life is all interconnected. So those TikToks are making you think about your life. So it's not truly disconnecting in terms of that. So.
And then what things would you say not to do? Like for example, would you be like, hey, like smoking's really not good for you? There's studies on that.
So I think, alcohol is a big one, right?
Yeah.
Smoking is a big one. And people say in moderation, but
what about vaping too? Would you categorize that as well?
Vaping is another one, yeah. And people will argue like, well, it's less toxic. Like yeah, I mean, there's bad in everything, right?
Yeah,
and so truly, if the advice or the normal doctor talk is don't drink, don't smoke, don't vape, don't do drugs, right? I don't like giving that type of generic because it's like, to me, it's like, why are you doing it, right? Like I want to search into like, what do you need so I can help you get off of it. But you've heard it. I mean, right? I remember I asked people yesterday, what's the meaning of insanity? And everyone would commonly tell you, well, doing the same thing, expecting a different result, right? That's the entrepreneur answer to insanity. The health one that I tell people is insanity is also knowing what to do and not doing it, right? And so you've heard it. Yeah, sleep better, drink water, don't drink alcohol, right? Don't smoke, don't do drugs. Sure.
Yeah.
But like, does that hit home? No, that's almost like cool, doc, whatever, see you later.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, no, I want to know why you're doing those things. What are you getting? How are you feeling? And then how could I address it and show you that there's a better way?
I like that.
Right? That's the key that's there. And that's why it's like personalized, or like for us, why we've been successful is because we have those conversations. And that's where our clients like, man, I needed someone, right? I needed someone to put it in that perspective so I can change. Otherwise, you guys have heard it all. Like, I don't need to tell you those things. It's like, yeah, I need to tell you why for you it's important, which would be different why for someone else.
Are you a big fan on like intermittent fasting or fasting in general?
Yeah. So again, why, right? Because people say, oh, I do it. And I ask them why. They're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, right, do you do it?
Yeah, I try to.
Why?
I don't know.
there it is, right? And so there's benefit from anti-aging perspective.
Okay.
Right? And so it does, there's evidence that shows that, you're going to geek out, but telomerases, or like the end of your chromosomes, they'll decrease if you intermittent fast, right? But that's a true biohack medical. That's not why the average person does it, right? Then there's the idea of like, well, I just heard it's healthy, I don't know, right? Or I want to lose weight. Well, depending on what your weight is, right? You get to a certain point. I use CrossFitters as a prime example. We work with elite CrossFit teams, and they're always eating. Because if you intermittent fast to lose weight, what you're literally telling your body is, I'm starving you, so you think it's going to make you lose weight or not? People say, yes, it's not. Because your body's going to say, I don't trust that you're going to feed me, so I'm going to maintain this fat around me.
Really?
For the day that you don't feed me and I need to burn calories. Yeah, so we get people like, let's say you're extremely overweight.
Yeah.
You do a calorie deficit, great. Yeah, because your eating habits were crazy, right?
Yeah.
When you get to a certain pot where you want to then take your health or your weight, your body composition to elite level, you have to eat. And our clients are always like, man, you spent 4 months telling me not to eat, now you're telling me to eat? Yeah, not to eat McDonald's, but not to eat healthy because you're doing this, right? So for me, I'm the biggest, and we do 12-hour shifts in the emergency department. I intermittent fast, not because I want to, it's just because of work. Right.
What's the proper way to intermittent fast? I've heard a lot of things like, oh, just water, or like coffee, no sugar, or what's the proper way to do it?
So again, that's like the why, right? In terms of it. So there's anywhere from 6 to 12 hours of intermittent fasting that people do.
Yeah.
You do it in the morning or at night. What I usually tell people is what's going to cause you to least disrupt your life. Because what we see is people try to do it the rest of their day and then they can't concentrate. I'm like, so why are you doing it? Right? Like if you can't go to your meeting and be productive, you can't go to your work, you can't work out because you're almost going to pass out. Like, then why do it at that point, right? And so if you're doing it for the right reasons, yes, and there's strategies out there. But again, it's always individual. That's why I don't like podcasts or like TikTok where like, just do it. What do you mean just do it? Like, how does that apply to me? Or worse yet, it's dangerous, right? Because to your point, what if I do have medications that I have to take? And they said don't take anything. right? And people, the average person is going to take it to heart and be like, all right, I'm not even going to take my medicines. No, you still need to take your medicines.
Yeah.
You still need to do X, Y, and Z. So there's all these strategies are out there. The biggest key, if anyone like that I would take, is like personalize it to yourself. That's what matters. Anything, you have to do it, right? We talked about entrepreneurs from all different aspects of life. The ideas are there, but it's like, how do you internalize it, right? That's why I like reading books, but then I like, if I read your book, then I would have reached out to you, be like, all right, talk to me. How does this apply to me? Because reading a book is, you're just giving me a generic story, a generic advice, but how do I apply it to me is the next step.
So moving forward now as an entrepreneur, having a successful business, working with high-end clienteles at 44, how do you keep maintaining that drive, that discipline? What's your pushing factor now? I mean, you've made it.
Right.
Why keep going? What's making you?
Yeah, to me, it's the one. I'm still a dreamer, right? I still want to accomplish things, but now the accomplishing is to leave a legacy and to open doors for others, rather than to make it, right? So that was that mind shift that I was talking about. And then 2 is because I truly believe that we're at a crossroads in health, where like we have all these cool things that are available to us, just people have to change their mentality on it. And in healthcare, the same way, like we as doctors have to empower ourselves again, and we have to show people that they have to invest in themselves, take care of them. So like, to me, it's not even the work. To me, it's like, man, I'm changing your life, and that keeps me motivated, that keeps me pumped. It's no longer the titles, it's no longer the money, right? And if I would have said that, I would have laughed at myself like years ago, right? Because I would always listen to people like me say that, and I'd say, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you made it. And I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I know I'm in that situation, right?
Yeah.
But you put in all that work so that motivation of the hustle is gone. Now your hustle is because of your vision and what you believe in. So then you could do that for years to come, right? Like if it's truly making you happy, why quit?
I like that.
Right? And that's what's got to keep you going.
Yeah, absolutely. I know we're getting a little short on time now, but for any closing statements for any young entrepreneur, a young kid from El Salvador coming into the US, someone with a vision, a dream, the American dream, what would be your closing statements to them?
Yeah, so I would say one, that you can make it, right? The road's not easy, and anyone that tells you it's easy is lying to you.
Yeah.
But every struggle, you gain something out of it, and you keep that mindset, keep going. 2 is then ask for help, reach out to people that have done it, learn from them, and you might not like them. That's fine. You're not there to make friends. You're there to gain knowledge from those people that do it. And then 3 is always remember health is part of it. Don't leave health aside for every other thing you're trying to do, because I guarantee if you match both of them, that roller coaster becomes less of a up and down and more of a trajectory forward. So I would say that.
Oh man.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.